Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny, and I'm here with.
Hi, I'm Rika. I'm a writer and editor of RPGs, and this is my husband.
Hi, I'm Mihal. I'm a graphic designer for role playing games, and I've been in the industry for about 15 years or so now.
Hmm. And today we're going to talk about a story that you put together called Last Hope of Fenhill, Crossover Presents, which is a Dungeons and Dragons level 3 to 6 adventure that you can find right now at dmsguild.com, I believe. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, excellent, excellent. So let's start at the beginning. How did this project come to be?
Well, we go on daily lunch breaks to walk our dog, and we were just discussing a one shot that I was thinking of writing based on B horror movies. So Mihao came up with the amazing idea of the Attack of the Flying Sorceress for one thing, and without spoiling the title, would give it away. But I got this idea for a one shot, and then when I started developing the world, it got bigger and bigger and bigger until I ended up with an 11 chapter book. Yeah,
Yeah, she always starts off with a small little idea and goes, "Oh, but then this would happen. But it makes sense if this happens as well." And then
yeah,
by the end of it, there are four branching paths, an entire world, loads and loads of NPCs, towns, villages,
yeah.
and lots of things to explore.
Hmm. Now, both of you aren't new to creating role playing games. You've been in the industry for a long time. Am I right?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Mm.
15 years or so. I did a lot of freelance when I got my start. I was actually working at Apple at the same time whilst I was getting my business together. And then a chap called Chris Birch got in contact with me, and we started a small little company that you now know as Modifius Entertainment. It was his brainchild, and I was there along for the ride and telling him, "That's a good idea. No, don't do that." And yeah, I've been the principal graphic designer there for 13 or so years now.
Mm.
So yeah, and I do lots of freelance on the side for other companies as well. Yeah, so I've been in it for quite a while.
Yeah, me not
Oh,
as long. I come from a completely different background. I used to play role playing games a lot. Then I went to college, studied philosophy, and went into finance of all things. When I met my husband, I got back my passion back, and also I missed writing. I missed exploring these things. So I started helping him out with work, and at some point I took the plunge and quit my job and started my own business. And I've done some work for Wizards and Archetype and for Modifius by now. Yeah.
before we talk about what this story is about, I have to ask: as creators, you could have gone in any direction in creating almost any story, and this is your first story. What made you decide that this should be your first thing coming out together?
Yeah. Well, basically I had the time to write something big because I just came out of projects that took me almost a few years, and it was the first time I had some actual time to myself to write. And this really spoke to me. I think my background is in philosophy, but also humanities, and I really like exploring human nature and how people live together. And this book is very much about that. So I think I just got carried away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the stories have got a lot of interpersonal
folk horror.
folk horror
Yeah,
stories, little subplots, little people hurting each other, and petty grievances, and yeah,
yeah,
the her knowledge of humanistics and stuff has really come into this, and
yeah.
she's created a world of 100 NPCs.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, but that's also there's two things here. I think there's for me as a role player, I like the role play part a lot, and sometimes I find the fight role playing a bit boring. So I wanted to have the option of the role play, but not make it mandatory. So there is the main storyline that they can follow. But if a group likes it and if a DM is willing to do it, there's 100 NPCs there. There's backstories. There's side tracks. There's all lots of stuff they can do. It's all there. It's presented. There's cheat sheets and stuff for people to make it easier to run. But they can also just skip all that And that would also means that the book, even after the adventure is done, there's so much to go back to, because there's still a lot to explore, even if you just did the main story.
Yeah, the actual main premise and idea behind the story sort of just evolved over time. It just kept on changing and changing and changing. It's always interesting to see. Oh, you have this idea to start with. I want to create a short story about this,
About a B horror movie.
about a B horror movie.
Yeah.
But then over time, it just merges into something else. So I think to answer your question, it just came into being over time.
Mm. So, what is The Last Hope of Fenhill about?
So it's a realm of dread. So that's the first thing. And without giving away about the big bad, it is at first a very gentle place. It doesn't seem that oppressive. The characters can come in several ways, and the people that live there, the people they meet, have all lived in this realm of dread under the influence of the Dark Lord for a long time. And slowly but gradually, you start to see that there's something wrong here. So it's not like modern horror, which is in your face with a lot of gore or that kind of stuff. It's more the oppressive vibe, and then sometimes have the rug pulled from under you, like a big shock every once in a while. That
One of our playtesters in our group was saying, no, they're normal, they're nice people.
they can't be doing this. They can't be doing this.
They're nice people. They
Yeah.
they look after us. They're really kind to us. And then something happens, and then they're kind again, and it just confused the hell out of the group, which was amazing.
It sounds like it borrows a lot from like the idea of folk horror. Am I?
Yeah, it is folk horror.
It is indeed folk horror. Yes,
it is folk horror. So it is basically putting a supernatural face on something that is about prejudices and about small-mindedness and about people who are about poverty and basically the narrow-mindedness of people. But it is, of course, part of a much bigger supernatural thing.
Yes, these people with their weird traditions that reveal themselves over time. To them, it's completely normal and just part of life. And to to most other people in existence, it would be just very confusing. Wait, you can't be doing. Wait, you can't do that.
Hmm. And this is level 3 to level 6. Any is it made for that any class, anyone could be anything from D&D?
Anyone can do anything, but one thing we had in our playtest, because it's basically based on Middle Ages England, but I didn't go all overboard with the names. Are all Catherine and Harry and that kind of stuff, and our characters all were Agadak, the kind of names, so it kind of felt a bit disjointed.
But that was a good thing about it. It made it so in our playtests, the characters would come in with these very strong fantasy names from the Forgotten Realms, and it fits perfectly in that. And this being a domain of dread, its own little place, when characters such as that come in, they do feel like outsiders. And it just by being a Dungeons and Dragons character
within a different
within this setting. Makes you feel like an outsider.
But still, there's the races are all represented in the population. It's not like it's pure humanity. So there's dwarves, elves, half elves, orcs, gnomes.
Yeah. And for classes, you can be anything you like. As Marika said earlier, you can just go through it and do the combats and fights, or you can take your time with investigations and meeting people and talking to people. And
there's places for all classes to shine. So there's different places in the story where each class can do their thing.
And this is your first Dungeons and Dragons project. Am I?
Well, it's our first solo project. So the last big project we did was Chains of Asmodeus. So I was a writer and editor on that, and he did the graphic design. So that's very much Dungeons and Dragons. It's also very much the scary part of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
So then, as creators, you had no trouble trying to use the Dungeons and Dragons rule system around your story.
No. I must say it's easy to write for. It's something that speaks to a lot of people, but there's so much there, and that you can borrow from. I like it. Yeah.
Mm.
It's good because it's also actually at its core very simple.
Yeah.
And especially if you're doing especially if you're doing like a story investigation adventure, the rules are very simple. It's skill checks here and some investigation checks there, and yeah.
The only thing that is a bit daunting is especially if you go past level 5 and they all get fireball, and it's balancing everything. One thing I really wanted to do for this story is because I have a lot of room for role play. I wanted the fights to also matter, and I think especially in horror you want there to be stakes, so you don't want it to be too easy. So when the fights hit, they hit pretty hard, and balancing that was pretty tough because we played it at home a lot of times, trying it out. But yeah, the playtesters said every time there's a fight, they felt they were in peril, and not that it would be easy. They felt like somebody may die, and that's exactly the level where I wanted them at. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm. Let's talk about the art direction. The art's fantastic.
it's amazing. Yeah,
Yes.
It before I even like look through it, it just grabs you right away. What? Wait, let's talk a little bit about the art direction. What was your thoughts behind the art pieces that you added?
So a lot of the art, most of the art is actually licensed. So what we have done, we gone to some of our favorite artists that we've seen around, and we think, oh, that piece is amazing and would be perfect for
that part of the
this
story.
part of the story.
Yeah.
We saw this cover art, and we thought, oh my gosh, this this piece really speaks to a part of the history of
Yeah.
the Last Hope of Fenhill, the last. And some of the art, when we saw it, we thought, "Oh wow, this can actually influence some of the story."
Yeah, there's one piece that was very influential. I had it pretty much storyboarded out, and then I found this piece of art, and I'm like, this changes everything. I have to use this.
Yeah.
But it changed the makeup of the story somewhat. But yeah, but you did such a great job with the graphic design as well, and all the flourishes on the page. It looks so well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did a few pieces in there as well, such as there are some the shield of Fenhill itself, and there are this holy symbol in there. I also did all the cartography and maps throughout as well. Yeah, but it all came together. We were very fussy with the art as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather no art for something than something that didn't fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, that went really well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it turned out quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm impressed with even the pages that don't have like an art piece attached to it. I guess that you could say I at first I thought like, oh, this reminds me of Modifius's style of design, where like sometimes where there's no art piece, no picture whatsoever, but still the pages look fantastic. Like you're reading a very special tome.
I think you just did the thing with Jim Johnson. He also did the Star Trek graphic design. If you see the pages there's always something going on, and it's always taken from. He just spends hours looking at the computer screens from Star Trek episodes to see what he can take from it. It's really cool to see you do that.
Yeah. That Star Trek was a really, really fun project. It was kind of daunting because I had to create Star Trek for all the eras. So original series and Next Generation and the new stuff like Discovery and our favorite Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
But that had to be all had to be represented. Oh, as well as Lower Decks. That all had to be represented in one design. So
you kind of did the same here with Fenhill. You have this motif of these falling leaves and this idea of decay and a bit of on the pages. Even if there's not a picture on there, there's still the flourishes you gave it.
yeah. Yes.
Hmm. The setting itself, is it tied into Ravenloft? Can I
Yeah.
take this and bring it into like Dragonlance, Greyhawk?
Yeah, you can basically it doesn't matter where the characters come from. It is Ravenloft. You can be pulled in from every which way. I like to work with a specific hook that ties a character to the story. So what I did is I had all the players can pick from 3 hooks. So there's one character in the story that ties them all together. So whether the characters know each other or not, and depending on which hook they choose, they're introduced in the story in a slightly different way, and they're also set up with a test at the beginning. and depending on what they do, it might benefit them in the future or bite them in the ass.
Yeah. So you can place Ravenloft anywhere. There is, I think, there's one name for a religion that will need to be swapped out, but there's a sidebar in there which explains what you can do. Or alternatively, this is its own setting. That religion could just be there. And it's now with Vecna, it's all part of the multiverse.
Yeah.
So you can pick and choose from whatever setting you like and put it together in this story. Yeah,
but that's the luxury of writing for Ravenloft, because you basically get to invent certain things, but you can also have a bit more creative license there. Yeah.
Without getting too spoilery, or maybe a little bit spoilery, is there any favorite story or instance in it that you want to share?
So Marika's done this amazing thing, in my opinion, where most of the major chapters, where the major plot arcs or plot points begin, she has like a page or two, which is the story of, and it is prose, but it tells you the adventure background and gives the games master, dungeon master, the knowledge of what is going to happen and what has happened before. And there is, actually, I can say the name, The Story of Muriel. For the dungeon masters out there who read this book, read that story. It gets me every single time. I get to the end and I just freak out every single time I read it. I've read it aloud to players as well after they finished that story arc, and I was on the edge of my seat, like really tense.
But yeah, I think as I did the editing for Raiders of the Serpent Sea, and that started with a little story, and I really liked that because it drew me into the whole thing. And while I was editing, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what was happening, and I know for a fact myself, I have so many of these books on my shelves that I might never get to play, but I want them to be nice to read for the DM anyway. So most of it reads like a story, and then when you get to the part where you're running it, it has every chapter has the story beats, the important ones, just in bullet points, so you can just before you get to see that. But I really got to town with that and some of the backstories of the NPCs.
I would be upstairs working, and she would shout, "Hey, come down! I want to read you this." She would read an NPC. Oh, that's quite tragic. Oh, that's quite happy. And then she'd be reading one. She looks up at me, and I'm in tears because of how.
That was the whole intent of the exercise.
Yeah. Does this work? What do you think?
And also, I think my favorite bits. I think the comedy of Errol's, I can call it that. That there's a bit of comedy in there in sorts, because you can't always have it be miserable. You want sometimes to give a bit of hope, so you can pull the rug from under people again. And once you get to Fenhill, it opens up a bit, and there's a few really, really funny encounters in different inns. That's I think my favorite little stories that you can find.
Oh yeah, the side stories, yeah.
Yeah.
If I may ask, what were your inspirations behind the stories and the art for this adventure?
Well, apart from that first B horror movie that we're not mentioning,
it will give spoilers actually.
I think somewhat still also fairy tales, because there's a lot of envy and desire and trying to get things in that sort of fairy tales and that kind of stuff. And I think also just my own twisted mind. Yeah.
The ironic thing is that she doesn't like horror films. Do you want to watch this film? No, I don't want to watch it. I write them, but I'll not watch them.
The worst thing is I can't even deal with it, because we were running the story, and so I can write it, but if it happens in front of me, there were just these NPCs that I'm quite attached to. They are really, really favorites of mine, and one of our characters didn't realize they were friendlies, so he thought they were enemies, and he decided as a bard just to bards are evil in themselves anyway, but he decided to charm one to kill the other, and they were married. and I just completely broke character. I couldn't tell. That really got to me.
Yeah, it turned out that our playtests were, from our perspective, a horror as well because of what the players were doing to our favorite characters.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, don't do this, don't do this.
Don't kill my baby, please. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there anything else about the last hope of Fenhill that you wanted to share that I haven't asked you about?
Oh, I will say one of my favorite things in a lot of role playing games are handouts. I will say
Oh yeah.
one of my favorite games is Call of Cthulhu, and I love being the keeper in that game and handing out newspaper articles to people and seeing their reactions, and as they read it, they find a clue in that. And Last Hope of Fenhill has a lot of handouts that you can print out and give to your players. Each chapter has a list of which handouts you need to prepare, and as well as there are some optional pieces of art. So all the art in the back, I've always found that in a lot of books, especially adventures, art is for the games master's eyes only, unless you're using a virtual tabletop, because you've got a book and you don't want to show the players the book. What I wanted to do, I wanted the players to see this artwork. So I created cards that you could print out of all the artwork and the relevant characters and scenes and just hand them to the players at the right moment. Oh, you meet this creature in the cave and it looks like this.
Yeah. And all the letters and there's a poster for something.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
And I think one thing, because 100 NPCs, lots of side stories. It also has 2 investigations. There's a lot of plot hooks that start in chapter 2 that come out in chapter 7. So there's a lot happening in the story. But I think it is not hard to run, just because, like I said, there's the beginning of the chapter tells you which NPCs are important to prepare, which steps of the quest are going to happen. Every time something's introduced, it is explained when it will be paid off, and there's an NPC reference sheet in the back of the book, which has all the NPCs by name with 3 facts about them and where you can find more about them. So if your players are going somewhere and they are say, "Oh, I want to talk to this NPC," and you haven't prepared it, there's always a cheat sheet for you. So I think that those are quality of life additions. Yeah.
Yeah. A few columns of their name, where they're encountered in the book, so you know exactly which section to go to. A couple of their physical traits, because you can literally just read these bullets off to players and they will instantly know what the character looks like.
Yeah.
And then 3 bullets of their background, who they are.
Some roleplay tips.
Some roleplay tips as well.
Yeah.
Hmm. And if I may ask, what is the future of crossover? What are your next projects?
Oh, we have lots of stuff planned. I had to put it on the back burner because there's some other projects I'm working on at the moment. I'm like 80% there with a one shot at the moment, and if the book does well, I have the follow up in my head, storyboarded and everything. So there can be another horror. The next one is just going to be an adventure with
the follow up to this was actually the world, and some of the ideas was devised by our children.
Yeah.
It's
who have more twisted minds than we thought gave them credit for.
Yeah, our 11-year-old was saying, "Oh, so that meat you were talking about? How about blah blah blah?"
No spoilers.
No spoilers. But I was just listening to her, going, "That's actually pretty disgusting."
The thing is, we really love working together. We are fortunate enough to work together on many projects, but doing this by ourselves was epic because you have such freedom and we work super well together, and it's so easy. He can just look at me when I'm writing and say, "Oh, that won't come across on the page," or you can do it differently, and it just works well. So I hope hopefully more.
There will be more.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It must be great working as a couple. I assume it just sometimes with an artist and a writer. Correct me if I'm wrong. Usually, sometimes there might be communication issues, but working together, because you're also a couple, must make things work-wise transition easier. Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
I think we are slowly getting to the point that we understand each other's thing. So I understand how it would work for him. So if I'm writing something, I can already put in the header levels at the right point, or I realize, oh, this needs a bit of adding to, because otherwise it won't look good on the page.
Yeah.
Because I've seen him do it.
Yeah, and also with her writing, I know her writing process. So if she's saying, "Oh, could you have a quick look at this to see if this comes across and makes sense?" and I know which stage of the process she's at. I know what needs to be edited or glanced over. Or
Yeah, because art is very detail oriented, and I'm one of those people who just sits down and goes, and then I have a big chunk of text, and that basically is the main storylines, but it's not finessed at all. And he was like, "Yeah, you missed a comma there," or something like that.
Yeah, she's one of those. I think George R. R. Martin called them gardeners, where they evolve as they write, and think the story evolves as they write. I'm one of the other end, like Brandon Sanderson, which is a architect designing everything.
Everything has to be perfect straight away, and that's yeah. But now we figured that one out. We are well together.
Yeah.
Well, well, thank you too for taking the time to talk to us about The Last Hope of Fenhill. Again, a level 3 to level 6 Dungeons and Dragons adventure, which you can find at dmsguild.com. I'll put links in the description below. Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having us. Yeah.
To our viewers, thank you for watching. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.